Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Alright, so today is the lunar eclipse, April 8th. It's about 4:30 right now. I'm making this video. I did go out and I got some video a little bit and some images. I'm in California, so we really didn't get to see the lunar. We did, okay, so I went out to the park. There happened to be two guys there, and they let me borrow their sunglasses. They had those specialized sunglasses, so I got to see it. It just wasn't like it was, say, in the middle of the country or towards the east. Alright, so here's the interesting thing. I just went out there to watch by myself. I didn't even realize they were doing it, and then I noticed they had sunglasses, but they were just casually talking, and they eventually started talking to me. Man, did they blow me away. Here's what I mean. I live in an area where people don't talk about this stuff. They don't talk about, like, they think the eclipse, oh, it's just an eclipse, it's just a physical thing happening. And now here's the funny thing. This area, so I live in Marin County, so a lot of the movies and songs we saw and heard back in the 70s and 80s, they came from Marin County, Berkeley, San Francisco. Okay, this is a huge part of the whole 60s and 70s movement. Okay, so my point is, this area used to be an area where you could openly talk about different beliefs, spirituality, Buddhism, whatever. Christ consciousness, etc. And I moved here, and it was in the, definitely deep into the shift. So I was explaining this to these guys, and he goes, well, yeah, he goes, everything got flipped upside down. I'm like, well, because I brought it up to them, because they kept talking to me about consciousness and the solar eclipse and what this means, and the veil being lifted even more. And I'm just like, wow, like, because I don't run into people here where you could talk about that. And when I do, you got to kind of talk quietly about it. But it didn't used to be that way. In fact, this was the mecca of energy healing, the mecca of consciousness, the mecca. I mean, it was Marin County, and then I can't think of the place it's in. I think it's in New Mexico. So essentially what happened in the 90s, around 91 or so, the whole .com movement took off, and then there was the collapse in 98. But the point being is the whole internet computer industry just took off, and well, we live literally 5 minutes across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco and Silicon Valley, which is just south on the peninsula of San Francisco. So they've completely overtaken Palo Alto, Mountain View, Los Altos, the peninsula, Silicon Valley, etc., etc. And what happened was the really rich ones came over here and were like, yeah, this is beautiful up here, because 70% of the land was put aside in the 40s, and you're not allowed to build on it. You are not allowed to touch it, which is why Marin County has so much natural land. And that's why I moved here. A lot of people moved here for that reason. The problem is, since the mid to late 90s, it really there was a shift that had. Now, I got here in 2001, so there was a shift in progress where all these left brain, computers, science, business, people were moving into Marin, buying up the homes and houses and land, etc. And the mentality here is completely flipped upside down. Alright, so my real message in that is, okay, this is for you. I don't know if you guys have heard, but what's going on right now, and has been for a while now, is we are now being connected with other people of like mind. So I go to the park by myself, just want to have this experience alone, etc. And there's a little hillside facing the sun, so I take my sweater off and I put it down, and I'm laying down, and the guy just kind of, hey man, blah blah, just I don't remember what he said at first. Oh, okay man, yeah, because I was kind of a little bit of a distance away, kind of wanted to keep my space. And he just kept throwing stuff at me. Hey, it's all, what did he say? It's all the Matrix, and it's all like consciousness, and it's not real, and we're living a dream. And he was just like throwing one thing after another. And I kind of looked at him and went, hey, man, I'm with you. Oh, okay. Like, I could tell that he thought I was looking at him like, okay, crazy. Now, here's going to blow your mind. So I just turned around and said, no, seriously, I really understand what you're saying. We're on the same page. And he's looking at me, and his brother looks at me. Now, these guys are like 60-some years old, but they don't look it. They're in phenomenal shape. You would swear they're 51 and in shape 51. So I start rattling off about I go, everything you're talking about, I talk about on my YouTube channel. And that was the first thing that got their interest. Like, really? Like, they started to believe me. I'm like, oh, yeah. And I just started talking about narcissist abuse, how it matched up with the teachings in the book of Genesis, the book of this, the book of that, the Bible, the book of Revelations, and I'm just going off. And they're looking at me, they're like, no shit. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm trained in NLP and hypnosis and blah, blah, blah. At this point, because they did talk a lot about the Bible, Jesus, and God, and I'm thinking they may not like energy healing and the NLP, etc. And they're like, really? Wow. And I'm like, and then they just kept talking. And so it was, and so I'm grinning from ear to ear, and they're like, what? I'm like, oh, nothing. I'm just thinking, like, that's exactly what happened. Like, I'm bumping into people that are of like mind finally. Now, here's the thing I was a little worried about is, like, because I'm all about everything. And what I mean specifically, I'm kind of looking at them like, are they total Christians? Like, to where they're in the box? Or are they more spiritual? Like, are they spiritual? Or they, because at this point I'm like, because they're really quoting stuff. And I just said, you know what? I'm not going to hold back. And I just started going off. And they're like, yeah, man. So I started talking about this whole energy healing in Christ and look within. And because he said something about, you really got to focus on your heart inside and this and that. I'm kind of thinking, does he really understand what he's saying? Or is he just repeating what other people have said to him? And I said, yeah. I go, that's why Jesus said, look within. And they looked at me like, yeah, like no one knows that. And so it was a really cool experience. So they're definitely really open-minded spiritual dudes. So it was a kind of a relief. Because honestly, my YouTube channel, that has been my, my, not escape, but my, just a place I can talk freely and openly about all this stuff. And I've gathered quite a few people who are very like-minded on this channel, which is really, really cool. And it's really refreshing. And that's what it was like talking to these guys. So it's like I'm going to say the first time, I think in over, I don't know how, 10 years, it's been a long time, where I could just genuinely talk about stuff and we were on the same page. So it was call it a refreshing experience. And I mean in person. Obviously on my YouTube channel, it's been an absolute joy talking to you guys and receiving your comments and, your communication back and forth. It's really been a joy. So one of the lessons that we had to learn is the reason why we were isolated and separated from other like-minded people is because we had to become solid in looking for our own approval and our own thoughts. Like, well, what do I think about that in a very solid way? So having conversations with these people, it's like they were bringing up new authors and writers and teachers that I've never heard of, saying the same thing. And they're like, man, that sounds like so-and-so. Have you ever studied them? I'm like, no, never heard of them. And so it was, in other words, instead of this defensive thing, oh, I don't know, they're different, or no, it's just like you just absorb more and more information. Let me say that better. The reason why you got isolated was because you had to think for yourself 100%. You had to be able to take what you wanted and leave what you don't want. You had to become your own person, a self-thinker. Not necessarily to be different. That's not what I mean. Because a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm different. I'm just going to do that. That's a mismatcher. That's not what I mean. So we are all creators, okay? We are all manifestors of this energy. So you had to get to the point where you began to create your own painting, your own artwork, your own thoughts, your own verbiage, your own poems, your own stories, your own books, and express it from your experience, from your perspectives, and share that with the world. See, if you just decided to join Team Mike because, well, I'm going to join this group because I believe what they say. I don't care if you believe what I say. I want you to just start thinking for yourself, because, how to explain this? In other words, okay, the dichotomy or the dualistic way of thinking, either or, that's not thinking. That's not creation. That's not creating. So when you pop out of, well, there's either I'm a Christian or I'm going to hell, okay? I mean, that's just one dichotomy. I'm either Muslim or I'm Christian. I'm either, I don't know, I'm trying to think. I'm either on the left or I'm on the right. It's like that duality, that dichotomy, that way of thinking it limits you down to two options. And the gateway that's completely opened up today, we are now in the age of Aquarius. That's what I believe this is fully about. We've been entering it, going through the tunnel from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. We are now in a space now where we are operating off of our left and right brain. That's what this solar eclipse is about. It's another unveiling. People are beginning to talk. They're beginning to share again. They're beginning to express. Haven't you noticed how we got shut down on purpose the last 3 years plus? That's what it was all about. They were trying to keep us from talking and sharing information. That's what this whole shutdown and computers and social media, that's why they want you addicted to it, is because now you're not talking. And this is what we talked about at the park. I wish I would have recorded our conversation. He's like, remember when people used to share information? They would sit down and meet at coffee shops or meet at the park or, at baseball games, and we would share, like, here's what I heard, here's what I saw, this is what I learned. He goes, people don't do that. They think they're doing it on social media, but you don't get the fullness of the information, and you don't. So gathering together is what they don't want us to do, because then we're going to start realizing, hey, wait a minute, we've been divided and separated by these people over here, and that's what they don't want us to do. They don't want us to connect. And by creating this dualistic duality, this way of looking either or, it's like, it used to be if somebody had a slightly different perspective, no, can't listen to that. You're evil. You're going to hell. It's like they don't want you to gain knowledge and information and see things from different perspectives. That's why they shut it down to either left or right, and that's all there is. So instead of there being a 360 degrees full spectrum, they got it down to 1% of the spectrum and then the opposite. And that's it. And now you're going to battle it out. And here's the deal. They don't want people to listen, because somebody might come in, someone crazy like me, and say, hey man, have you ever looked at it from 237 perspective or degrees perspective? Like, well, you're weird. You're crazy. You need to be put on medication. It's either or. It's either 1% or it's the opposite, which I don't know. I guess that would be 360. So you can either look at it from the 1 degree or the 360 degree. No, that wouldn't be it. It would be 188, I think. Well, you guys get the point. I think it's 180 now that I think about it. Sorry, math classes way past me right now. And it's just like this. Just because you're right does not mean I am wrong. You just haven't seen life from my side yet. And this is what the elites don't want you to realize. From one perspective, it looks like a 9. From the other side, it looks like a 6. And they have kept us in this very low vibrational mentality for a long, long time, and we only see it through either or. There's a whole spectrum, not just in a circle like a flat circle, but then there's a circle going from top to bottom, left to right. I mean, there are massive amounts of perspectives. And that's what life is all about. You want to shift your perspective to see it from the other person's side 100%, because only then can you understand what they're having and sharing with you, what they're trying to say to you. If you can't understand what they're saying, There's no use having a conversation. Now here's the deal. That doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It's just like, okay, well, what do you see and why do you see it from your perspective, and how are you looking at this? It's almost like you come out of your body and you go to the other side and you see it from their perspective. Your goal should be to master the art of seeing it from other people's perspectives, of understing, of hearing, of even feeling it from their shift, from their perspective. Because when you do this, you gain massive amounts of knowledge. This is what life was meant to be about. It's like, instead of having just salt and pepper, because we're from, Great Britain, let's say, you want to get the spices from India. You want to get the spices from Thailand. You want to try the spices from Spain and Italy. Oh, Italy has amazing flavors, amazing aromas. And you want to taste the wines from different countries. You don't want to taste one wine, only Cabernet. You want to try red blends. You want to try white wine. And you want to try white wine from France and from Napa Valley, where I'm from. You want to experience the fullness of life, and what they've done is they've limited us down literally to salt or pepper, either or. I remember in high school wrestling, at least the first few years, we didn't really have the best coaches. We got 2 coaches towards the end there that were really good. But what we would do is like, well, how come this team's so good? We took 2nd place in league, and people people are like, well, they don't have any coaching. And here's what it was. We would listen to each other. We'd like, well, hey man, how did you pull that off in that match and beat that guy? It's like, well, here's what I did and what I learned. If I slightly twist my hand a little bit, rotate it to the right by 2 degrees, then I can make it work. We would share information with each other, and that's how we all got better and better and better. We saw it from other people's perspectives. We were, what it was? We were very open-minded because we had to figure out a way to get better. So here's the deal, what's going on with religion. I've said in the past, watch this. So I look at very left-brained people, scientific people. They can't see it from the right brain's perspective. Not only can't they won't. They're like, no, that's wrong, I'm right, you're wrong, that's it. And that's the either or mentality. Either you're right or I'm right. We can't both be right. Why not? The fact of the matter is you can be both right in many, many situations. For example, a girl's on the beach looking towards the ocean, and her boyfriend's looking at her from the ocean like he's standing in the water. And she goes, God, it's such a beautiful crystal clear day, and I can see the beautiful horizon and the water. And he's like, what are you talking about? What ocean? What water? He goes, it's a mountain. It's pine trees. She goes, there's no mountain. There's no pine trees. Well, if they both turn around, they'll be like, oh, they both were right. So to me, this eclipse is shifting us from this limited either-or mindset into all the options and possibilities, and listening to understand each other, because we want to learn, we want to grow, we want to develop, we want to absorb more knowledge, more information, to experience life on a much more in-depth, deeper, more meaningful way, to make life a richer place to be for all. So I kind of knock Neil Tyson deGrasse, or maybe it's Neil deGrasse Tyson, however you say that, because he always knocks the Bible and Christianity and spirituality, because he doesn't believe it's true. Well, he can't see it from the left brain. Now the problem with people like that, some of them are neurologically stuck. They can only see it from one perspective. They don't have the ability to expand. So they can't process in the right brain way. So even if something spiritual happens right in front of their face, they'll deny it, and they'll be like, oh, well, it was just a coincidence. That's one of their favorite words, by the way, is magically, deliciously coincidental once again. All right, here's my point of this whole video. I'm going to shift to the other side. So I started realizing scientific people, because they change these universal laws on a regular basis. At this point, I think it's every 6 months or 2 years. I mean, there'll be a universal law they made 150 years ago or 60 years ago, and then all of a sudden 20 years later, boom, they're changing it. And you're like, wait, again, another one? Even Neil deGrasse Tyson has admitted on YouTube multiple times. He goes, man, were we wrong about that one? Turns out it wasn't that at all. So wait a minute. if this universal law that is unchangeable, and you made us check mark that on the test, otherwise we would flunk and we wouldn't get our degree in science, and you're saying it's wrong, well then what was it we were believing? Exactly. You were believing beliefs. It was all about, I joined this group because they think like me, they look like me, and they act like me, and I like it, and they like me, and therefore I'm just going to believe by consensus. I mean, this is science we're talking about. These people change their blind faith at the snap of a twizzle. I mean, they literally, like, there could be this unchangeable universal law that they said, that they stated, and you have to check mark it on the test in college. Otherwise, you are wrong and you're not one of us, and we're kicking you out of the club. And they do. You might as well be a damn sinner. See, this whole eclipse is about more and more people opening up and going, you know what? I'm starting to realize I was lied to. By the way, this is an image that I took. Actually, no, it was the guy. He took it next to me. He put a sunglass up to his cell phone. It's grainy because it wasn't really made for it. But we took this today here in California, in the Bay Area. Okay, religious folks, it's your turn. All right, so here's what I mean. All right, so it really started dawning on me in the last week or two, because I've always been if I had to lean on one side, it would be the religious side, but it's actually spiritual. So religious people, I realize, are coming from the same brain. It's the left brain. It's about rule, structure, and organization. That's how the left brain organizes and processes things, through rule, structure, and organization, right? And everything is like step 1, step 2, step 3, which is logical left brain thinking. And so is science. They are the epitome of either or thinking. Either it's my belief or you're going to hell. Is it possible you're both right? Well, that's blasphemy! Now here's the stupidest part of all of this. These two enemies that fight against each other all the time, and you're wrong, you're crazy, you're insane, you're closed-minded. These same entities, the left science and the left religious people, they will join sides against you if you say they're both right, and if you're not choosing. See, they would rather have you choose a side, because here's the deal: you're thinking like them. So if you're a left brain person and it's either or, like, hey, at least they're intelligent, they think the way I think. Yeah, and the either or limited mentality. So instead of coming from the 1 degree perspective or the 180 degree perspective, you're coming from like 137 or out in left field 213, and they're looking at you like, what the hell's going on with this guy? So it's like that husband and wife at the ice cream store, 31 flavors or whatever. And the husband goes, yeah, I'll have a vanilla ice cream on a regular cone. And the guy goes, ma'am, what would you like? Well, I would like a sugar cone and a chocolate dipped sugar cone, and I would like a scoop of vanilla and a scoop of chocolate raspberry, and then I would like a scoop of chocolate on top of that, and I would like some whipped cream, sprinkle some nuts on top of it. Oh, and could you put those colorful sprinkle candy things on there, and then put some swirly strawberry, whatever. And the husband's like, you can't get that. And the wife goes, why? He goes, oh, you just can't. Because in his mind, it's you either get one flavor or another. So you guys may not realize it, but more and more people are literally looking at these very left brain people, whether they're religious people or scientific people, and being like, you guys are both wrong because you're both right and you don't even see it. Enter the end of times. We have now entered the age of Aquarius. And this is where you can both be right, because you're seeing it from different perspectives, where you can add to the conversation instead of take away from the conversation. So what is the age of Aquarius? Okay, so what do I mean? So we just came out of the age of Pisces, and it was around 2012 12, where we just began entering the tube, which is like a funnel getting wider and wider. And we are at the open mouth where we are literally finally shifting the energy. Because in between this stage, when you shift from one energy to another energy, it's uncomfortable. It's why there's been yelling and screaming and fighting and everything. And it's going to continue a little bit longer. So essentially, just like this image we're looking at right now, we are hurtling through space, our solar system, okay? Now, I don't remember if it's our solar system or universe, but our galaxy. So essentially, we are moving around the different times of call it the astrology, okay? So you've got Scorpio, you've got Sagittarius, Capricorn, and you go through all of them from Pisces to Taurus to Gemini to whatever. We are now entering the age of Aquarius, where the energy is shifting. It's more open. There's more light. It's literally like the light has been turned on. So the people that had power in the age of Pisces, which is it's underwater, it's kind of murky, it's very indirect. Now here's the deal. Just like I was talking to these guys today about it, I said, look, we're just coming out of the dark ages, like literally in the last few years. Like we didn't come out of the dark ages like 300 years ago, 400. No, we're just coming out of it right now. So the whole Pisces thing is it's not direct. It's not out in the open. It's kind of sneaky. It's kind of manipulative. It's indirect. It's beat around the bush. It's kind of like, whereas now everything, see, okay, a lot of you call it getting downloads. What you're doing is the veils are being lifted and you're seeing more and more of what has always been here. You just couldn't see it because the lights were out. Like one of the beliefs of the age of Pisces is, oh, you just got to see the good side of things. You just got to be positive. Or you just got to think the best of people and just or like have a belief that people are this way. Well, that's the thing. Religious people and scientific people, it's all about beliefs. It's all about just blind. Well, if that's what my book says, if that's what the professor says, then that's what I believe because I'm here at this major university and it's got big buildings and big books and it must be right. So you didn't actually do the test, did you? You never actually got involved in that study that took 7 years to complete. You just said, well, this is what they said they did and this is what they said, so I'm going to blindly believe them. And in church, that's what we call literally blind faith. So scientific people are the same as religious people. It's all about blind faith. If the pastor says so, well, it must be so. Here comes along Spiritual Mike, and he says, no. It's not about beliefs, it's about knowing. So I want to get involved in this test. I want to practice this technique 1,000 times to see how good I can get at it, to see if it actually works. I want to find out firsthand by being involved physically, emotionally, mentally. I want to see it. I want to hear it. I want to feel it. I want to smell it. I want to taste it. I want to know from first-hand experience. So then you get the atheists who are just the same as a religious person or a freaking scientific person. Their whole thing is like, well, I don't believe that. So their whole system comes down to I believe or I don't believe. In fact, it's almost like atheists. It's like if you could actually give them a definition, they are the antithesis to anyone's beliefs. Like, well, if you believe something, then I don't. I just don't believe that. So their whole thing is they don't read the Bible. They just say that it's fake and it's not real. It's full of fancy stories that are fairy tales. And you say, well, how long did you study the Bible? Like, well, I didn't. I'm like, why? Well, because I don't believe in it. Like, oh, so you're the master expert on the Bible, although you've never read it once. Great, got it. At least religious people and science people, at least they study what they do. And at least they read it and they get involved. And they actually do learn some things. So then comes along Spiritual Mike and his friends, and we're like, hey, let's see if we can meditate. Let's see if we can heal people. Let's see if we can learn Reiki, Huna, Pranic healing. Let's see if we can actually develop consciousness versus talking about it. Let's actually take action, take steps to create these things, to experience this and realize, is this real or is it not? And find out from first hand. So here I am posting about my dream about the bridge collapsing, and then 2 weeks later the Baltimore bridge collapses. And then about 2 years or so I talked about, no, that was actually longer than that, about the plane. That was quite long. It was about 5+ years ago. I posted a video and posted on my Facebook page about how something was going to disappear. A lot of people were going to go missing, and I described this big tube, and it was like I think it's an airplane because I couldn't see the wings, and I described it and then I wrote down, or the first start it was 777. I posted that on my Facebook page. People were like, oh, what is this? Is this some kind of game or something? And I said, no, I think something really bad's going to happen. They're like, what do you mean? I go, I think a lot of people are going to go missing. All I see is like this big, huge, massive tube, and there's people inside there. Like, well, that's an airplane. The next day, that plane went missing in the Indian Ocean, and the type of plane it was a 777. And then just a month or two before the coronavirus hit, I posted a video and posted on my Facebook page saying, hey, something's coming fast. It's going to affect the entire world. It's going to start from one place and it's going to spread throughout the whole world like fire. And it's going to affect all of us. And it's something about shutting us down. And then bam, the coronavirus hit, and that's exactly what it did. It spread around the world, spread like fire, and we got shut down. And you know who the people that attacked me the most? The spiritual people. Oh, you're weird. You're crazy. That's weird. How is it weird and crazy if it actually frickin' happens? Sorry, no, not the spiritual people, the religious people. And that's the weirdest thing of all. They talk about Jesus. He walked on water. He healed people. He turned water into wine. And he rose from the dead. All this spiritual stuff. And Jesus taught his disciples and said, go in pairs unto the world and do so unto the world. In other words, teach healing. Teach people how to heal. And yet religious people, oh, I don't believe in that. Well, it has nothing to do with your beliefs, honey, because it's real. God bless you guys. This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed your April 8th solar eclipse. God bless you. Life is going to get better. Remember, click subscribe, click the like button, go ahead and make a comment. And if you want, go ahead and leave a donation. There's a PayPal link right down there below in the description box. See you in the next video. Peace.